Hi folks, I'm Dr. Ed Byer. I want to welcome you to our video here on chronic digestive conditions through functional medicine, which is what I've been practicing for over 33 years in Tinley Park, Illinois. So this video is for those of you who are suffering from any digestive symptom and you're not getting answers and you're not getting resolutions through traditional medicine. So I actually have an hour-long version of this video, but I've learned that people cannot pay attention for an hour. So what I'm doing is I'm shortening this down to a lot less time. So I'm going to go kind of quickly. But if you want to see my longer video, you can always access it through my website, Byer Natural Health Solutions, or click the link below. So why do you want to watch this whole video in its entirety? You're really going to gain a greater understanding into the underlying causes to digestive dysfunction, stuff that your gastroenterologist and medical doctor don't look at. And at the very end, I'm also going to go over, hey, what does this cost, right? Because the way that I work is I do specific testing to figure out why you're sick, not what you have, but why you have it. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you a private number where you'll have an opportunity to consult with me for 30 minutes, whether it be on the phone or in person, which I prefer. But a lot of people, I have patients all over the country. So you're going to have a 30-minute, no obligation consultation to say, hey, can you help me or can you not help me? I'll give that number at the very end. So I do virtual consultations. I have patients all over the country. Basically, people hire me to figure them out. And the testing can be done through the mail. We use LabCorp, which is a nationwide lab. Anything that I have to give you can be done virtually. It's information, labs, we can send to you. Very, very easy to do. So even the father of medicine, Hippocrates, said, look to the gut. There you'll find the origin of almost all human illnesses. Folks, whether someone comes to me with an autoimmune disease or depression, type 2 diabetes, obesity, fibromyalgia, whatever, I always fix the gut first. That's like the epicenter of health. So that's where good health starts. There's this big difference between traditional medicine and functional medicine, right? So a lot of you have experienced traditional medicine. It's very different. They're more interested in what you have, whereas I'm more interested in why you have it. And then their approach is to do specific testing to rule out different diseases, which is very beneficial. But at the end of the day, you're gonna get medicine, right, or surgery. So the United States represents 5% of the world, and we consume 72% of the world's pharmaceuticals. It's a pharmaceutically driven system, folks. And when I ask the question at these seminars, when I do them live, I ask everybody, think of 2 changes you can make in your life that'll make you healthier. And you know what I never hear? I need to take more medicine, right? You got to get to somebody, whether it's me or someone like me, to really, if you're suffering and you're not getting answers, to figure you out. That's the purpose of this video, is what testing needs to be done. No guesswork. Oh, I need to go gluten-free or I need to. No, you got to do the test to really figure you out. And that's what I do through functional medicine. But my way requires changes, right? Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. That's the definition of insanity. So people, a lot of you just don't know what to do. You're searching on the internet. Doctor's not giving you answers. This is a place for real answers. So everything in this presentation is in the scientific literature. I'm not making this stuff up. It's in the science. It's in research. But don't expect your medical doctor to know, acknowledge, or endorse this, because their perspective is medication, right? And that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary. But if you tried that, it's not working, you got to try something else. My dad used to say, if all you have is a hammer, every problem's a nail. So that's how they see things. So don't expect them to get this. So there's 10 underlying causes. There's all kinds of underlying causes to chronic digestive problems. These are the top 10 that I've seen over the 30 years I've been in practice. Let's get to them right now. Number 1 is low stomach acidity. Low stomach, Dr. I got too much. Well, we're going to talk about that. This is known as Hypo Low Chlorhydria. When you don't produce enough stomach acids, you don't break down your food properly. You're going to get chronic infections because every mouthful of food has germs in it. You're going to have poor pH in the gut, which just like a pool, if the pH is off in a pool, things are going to grow that you don't want growing. And no matter what you do, take probiotics, take enzymes, all this, it's not going to work until you correct the pH. And you need proper stomach pH in order for the pancreas and gallbladder to work. We're going to talk about that. Again, I'm going quickly. I go in more detail in my hour-long video. So low stomach acidity, what that means is when you eat a healthy stomach, if you eat and you put your fingers into a healthy stomach, after someone eats, your fingers are going to be down to the bone in 30 seconds. It's like battery acid, right? And the reason why, number one, is to break down our food. So many people don't break down their food properly, and so their food sits there too long, and the acids they do have go upward. So they get too much acid here because they got too little acid here. So what does your doctor do? They put you on acid reducers, Nexium, Prilosec, omeprazole, all these different things, which just messes you up, helps you, it's deceiving, helps you symptomatically, but at what cost? And you're going to learn about that. So acid reflux and GERD and all of the heartburn is usually due to too little acid, causing a pressure problem where the acids get pushed upward. Also, when you take these acid reducers or you have low stomach acidity, every mouthful of food that you eat has germs in it, right? So you're going to get chronic infections all the time. H. pylori is the most common. So that's going to cause any digestive symptom. It's going to, when you have an infection in your gut or stomach or intestines, it's going to cause inflammation throughout your body. And then you're going to go to your doctor. What are they going to do? They're going to put you on an antibiotic, which destroys your own normal good bacteria, the microbiome. So it's just an endless circle. Whereas we're going to talk about what actually causes this low stomach acidity. So when the gut pH is poor, what happens is you start to get these overgrowths of bacteria. And then when you eat, it ferments your fibers and you produce gas. Right? That's what irritable bowel syndrome is. Irritable bowel syndrome is almost always traced back to poor stomach acidity. When the gut microbiome is off, when the normal bacteria in your gut is off, that's the trigger of autoimmune disease. It breaks down your gut, causing leaky gut syndrome. You're going to get things like diarrhea, constipation. You're going to get chronic skin issues, which we'll talk about later. And constipation is very common too. Now, the acids in your stomach, when the food leaves the stomach, if they're not acidic enough, your pancreas gets lazy. So if you don't produce enough acids in your stomach, you get poor pancreatic function or pancreatic insufficiency, and then you don't absorb, right? And you develop all these nutritional deficiencies. People come to me all the time, you're low on vitamin D, you're low on this vitamin. How can it be I'm taking a supplement? You're not absorbing it. So if you're on these acid reducers and your stomach is sitting, you're bloating and all that, you have to get that fixed. We're going to get into how they do that naturally. So bloating like an hour and a half after you eat is really common when the pancreas isn't working right. These are the people that have FODMAP problems and all that. But nutritional deficiencies, poor pancreatic function will happen when you don't produce enough stomach acid. Same thing with the gallbladder, folks. So the gallbladder, what it does, it takes bile from the liver and it produces bile salts, and bile salts help us to remove toxins through the stool, through breathing, through urine, and through sweat. So the gallbladder is kind of like a detox organ. And so when the food comes out and it's not acidic enough, just because you have low stomach acidity, or you're taking a proton pump inhibitor like omeprazole, Nexium, Prilosec, all those different things, your gallbladder gets lazy, and then eventually grit forms, stones form, and what's the medical solution? Let's just pull it out, right? The gallbladder helps us to remove our hormones that we're done with, and that's a big part of hormone balance. So hormone imbalances occur when the gallbladder isn't working right. You're not going to absorb your fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, or your essential fatty acids. You get malabsorption, and you get bloating, especially if you don't, especially if you eat a fatty food. Telltale sign of poor gallbladder, you take fish oils and you burp it up. You should not be tasting that. You're not breaking down your fats. So I'm going through this quickly, but hang in there. So causes of low stomach acidity or GERD, poor brain-gut connection. There's a nerve in the brain called the vagus nerve that controls, that actually makes your stomach produce acids. We give our patients specific vagal exercises to restore the brain-gut connection. Inflammatory foods and food sensitivities, taking Nexium, Prilosec, omeprazole, pantoprazole is one of the most horrible medications you can take. We get people off those medications within 4 to 6 weeks without having the consequences of heartburn. Thyroid is a major player when it comes to producing acids in the stomach. Zinc is important, and you're going to get these infections which further enhance or it makes you unable to produce acids. We test for all this. That's the key. The second cause of digestive dysfunction is low gut flora. Folks, we have living on us and in us about 100 trillion bacteria that do really good things for us. That's called our small biome, living system. 80% of these, about 80 trillion of these microbes are in the gut. When the gut microbiome is off, the skin upper sinuses and lower genitourinary tract, which is where the other 20% are, can start developing problems. I cannot tell you how many people with skin issues that we clear up, not because the skin was bad, but because the gut microbiome was bad, because these systems talk to each other. We see a lot of sinusitis, a lot of lower urinary tract infections, a lot of skin problems, all related to the gut. So these 100 trillion, about 100 different species, they reside in the gut, skin, mucous membranes, upper respiratory tract, lower genitourinary tract. And this is important that they are in the correct amount so that they're beneficial to us. So what are these gut flora, these bacteria, what do they do for us? They produce energy for our gut cells. They're anti-inflammatory. They prevent cancer. They regulate the immune system. They keep our gut barrier healthy. They synthesize vitamins. They remove toxins that we ingest, which is always, including medications. They compete and kill pathogenic microbes. They help with the breakdown and absorption of nutrients. They help remove histamine. They convert glutamate into GABA. Glutamate's an excitatory neurotransmitter. GABA is calming. So anxiety and panic attacks, all of that can be related to the poor gut flora. And they regulate the motility of our bowels, and they help remove cholesterol and used up hormones. They do a lot for us, and if you're too low, then we got to find that out. The causes of low gut flora, C-section. Now, when we're born, our guts are aseptic. There's no bacteria in there. Our first inoculation or mouthful of bacteria occurs through mom's vaginal canal, right? And hopefully mom's healthy. So if we're born C-section, which 5% in 1970, now it's up to 31% in 2010, these babies are born with 1 foot in the proverbial hole. And then breastfeeding, you get colostrum, which helps to seed and allow the bacteria to grow in the gut. So when the baby's able to start eating, they have a good gut microbiome. Poor maternal health, obviously, antibiotics, or whether it's medication. There's a lot of antibiotics in our food. That's why you want to eat hormone-free. Poor gut pH, we already talked about that. Taking proton pump inhibitors will screw up and knock down your gut flora. Poor diet, hormone imbalances, and the poor brain-gut connection through the vagus nerve. So we do a DNA test for our stool test. It's 100% accurate, no false negatives, no false positives. It looks at DNA through a process called polymerase chain reaction, or PCR. And so we're able to look at, are your flora, like this patient right here, the flora is too low. This person needs a probiotic. Now, if they're and they need to fix why it's low, see? You don't want to be on probiotics forever. So number 3, bacterial or yeast overgrowth. This is known as dysbiosis, where there's a loss of balance of the beneficial flora. This is especially true in Crohn's disease, celiac and ulcerative colitis, and irritable bowel syndrome. It's also true in allergies. You got too many bacteria overgrowing. They're going to stimulate the mast cells. You're going to get histamine release. There's over 138 scientific papers on PubMed relating the gut microbiome to obesity and type 2 diabetes. These are the people that no matter what they do, they can't lose weight. Or they'll lose 10 pounds, they gain it back. These are the people that have poor gut microbiomes. The poor gut microbiome, these overgrowths are going to cause inflammation throughout the body and brain, causing brain fog, depression, anxiety, memory loss, lack of motivation, attention deficit, arthritic and chronic pain can be related to all this. Over 40 diseases related to overgrowth of bacteria. We test for it and get rid of it. So dysbiosis, when you have overgrowth, you're going to over-ferment the fiber that you eat. That's going to cause excessive gas. Fermentation produces nutrition for the bacteria, and also there's some gas spill-off. But if you got too many, you get too much gas. If that gas is methane gas, you're going to get constipated. If it's hydrogen gas, you're going to have diarrhea. This is what irritable bowel is. So we got to figure all this out. Irritable bowel is like pretty easy to get rid of if you really get to the root cause. So the causes of this is constipation. If you don't move your bowels, you're not removing bacteria out of the system. Poor stomach acidity, we talked about that already. The poor brain-gut connection, taking proton pump inhibitors. FODMAP are certain short-chain sugars that when you have overgrowth, they just cause too much fermentation and you can't handle them. Food sensitivities, type 2 diabetes where there's too much sugar, alcohol, and diets that are high in sugar, low in fiber. So again, here's the DNA test that we do stool. You can see high levels of bacteria, so we have to figure out what's causing it and get rid of it. Number 4, gut infections. So every mouthful of food that we have contains germs. Most people don't chew long enough, so the saliva is the first line of defense, and you should really chew about twice as long as most people normally do. And so if gut infections, what they do is, well, the normal protection against gut infections are tonsils. And some of you don't have tonsils, right? Because some people believe we're built with spare parts, right? So chewing and chewing longer, saliva, that gets rid of a lot of the microbes that we can ingest. Having a proper acidic stomach is crucial. We need a proper gut microbiome to fight off these bugs that come down into our stomach. You need what's called secretory IgA, which is an antibody that the immune system produces in the mucosal cells. We test for that. Many people are very low for various reasons, so they have poor gut immunity. Washing your food also is very important. Eating old or unclean food, low stomach acidity, we already talked about that. Antacids, poor gut microbiome, poor brain-gut connection, poor gut immunity. All these are things that your gastroenterologist doesn't look at. And you're sitting there wondering why you still have all these issues, because you can't take a medication to get rid of these. It's absurdity. It's just craziness. So if you're suffering, that's why you're going to schedule a consultation with me at the end of this video. Indication through stool testing is critical. Then the removal, plus we address the underlying causes, or else it's going to return, right? So we don't want that. We want permanent type correction. How do we remove gut infections? We do it naturally. There's so many good things that our Creator put on this earth that kills germs, right? There's so many antimicrobials. If you take antibiotics, it's going to wipe out the good guys and the bad guys, right? You don't want that. So we do natural antimicrobials. Here's a list of some of them: oregano oil, grapeseed oil, caprylic acid, wormwood, garlic. These are all different things that work so much better than antibiotics. Number 5, inflammatory foods and food sensitivities. There's just some foods that cause inflammation, folks. Sugar is one of them. Bad vegetable oils, trans fats, hydrogenated oils. We teach our patients, look for these oils and eliminate them. Dairy, cow's milk, grains, especially gluten, alcohol, lectins, which are the antibodies of plants, and nightshades like tomato, bell pepper. We'll get patients off of those for a while. Some of you know about FODMAPs, which is an acronym for short chain sugars that you're not able to process because you got overgrowth. Folks, if you're suffering with FODMAPs, you get rid of the overgrowth, you can add those foods back in. And then there's so much more: food additives, pesticides, hormones in our foods, antibiotics in our foods that wiping out everything and causing inflammation. So food sensitivities, much of our food today that we eat today is very different than the food we ate 30, 40 years ago, right? So we eat it, and our immune systems that we inherited, not just from our parents, but from grandma and grandpa. We inherit our immune system, our genetics, from generations. And all of a sudden, companies like Monsanto come along and genetically change the food, and we eat it, and our immune systems are like, this is not what grandma and grandpa ate, right? And so it forms an immune response to it, or inflammation. That's called a food sensitivity. It's going to leaky gut, too. This is where the barrier of the gut has microscopic holes. It's like having holes in your screen door on a hot summer day. Things get into your circulation that normally wouldn't. You're going to start absorbing larger normal molecules of food, and your immune system's going to go, doesn't belong, and it's going to attack it. It's going to cause all this systemic inflammation, and it's also the gateway to autoimmunity. So these food sensitivity tests must look at two antibodies, IgA and IgG. There's a lot of bad food sensitivity testing out there. Food allergies is where you get an IgE response, which activates mast cells, and that releases histamine, which causes all the symptoms of allergies. So that's usually related to food sensitivities and poor gut microbiome. Again, I know I'm going really fast. I got this in an hour-long video. I get more into detail. So here's a leaky gut test that we do. It's a test where they check for antibodies against the gut, and it's very easy to identify and test for, and fairly easy to fix depending on how long you've had it. Here's a food sensitivity that we do. It's a finger prick test that we give you a kit. You do it at home. It'll tell you what foods are you eating that you're having an immune response to. And usually when we fix the leaky gut, you can add some of these foods back in. Very important part of figuring you out. Number 6, gut autoimmunity. The inflammatory bowel diseases, celiac disease, ulcerative colitis, and Crohn's. All 3 are autoimmune diseases. The world of functional medicine versus traditional medicine is when it comes to autoimmune disease, are polar opposites. Traditional medicine, they're going to want to suppress your immune system with corticosteroids or immunosuppressants, the so-called biologics that you see on these commercials. I can't believe how many so many of you must have this, because these commercials are becoming more and more prevalent. They squash the whole immune system to manage your symptoms, right? With functional medicine, through proper lab testing, we identify and then remove the triggers to your autoimmunity. And then we can put it in remission and teach you how to keep it in remission the rest of your life. How about that for a concept? All right, autoimmune triggers vary from person to person. That's a very important concept. I have a whole video on autoimmunity. I have a whole video on Crohn's and ulcerative colitis if you want to watch it on my website, Natural Health Solutions. Leaky gut is a trigger. Food sensitivities, we already talked about. Infections, poor adrenal, thyroid, liver function, low vitamin A, D. Short-chain fatty acids are a postbiotic that our probiotics make to help our immune system be regulated, and essential fatty acids and glutathione, unstable blood sugar. There's so many triggers to autoimmunity. How do I know which ones you have? Testing. You can have the same symptoms as the next person, and like Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, and the symptoms are the same, but what's causing A and what's causing B can be totally different. The devil's in the detail. That's why we got to do the testing, which I go over at the end. Number 7, certain medications are very harmful to the gut. We all know that aspirin, ibuprofen, naproxen, corticosteroids destroy the gut lining. You're taking these meds. A lot of you are taking these meds because you're inflamed, and you're inflamed because your gut's bad, right? So it's just like this downward circle. It's maddening. Antibiotics, we all know, kill the gut microbiome. Birth control pill increases your chance of IBS by 3 times, 300%. Acid reducers, we already covered that. Antidepressants are usually serotonin. They raise serotonin levels, and the gut is loaded with serotonin receptors, so we get increased gut activity when people that are on antidepressants. And chemotherapy is another medication. Number 8, we're flying through these again. You can watch my hour-long video. High cortisol, which is a stress hormone, will break down the gut. Low cortisol is when your adrenal glands are burnt out. Many people, by the time I see them, is where they're at. You're going to get poor gut healing. The gut reestablishes itself every 5 to 7 days. You get this turnover, right? So you need these hormones working. Estrogen dominance or surges, like we see with birth control pill or taking estrogen, will cause constipation and gallstones. Low progesterone in females and low testosterone in males will cause lower gut activity, constipation and bloating. Thyroid is a major player when it comes to producing acids in the stomach. And low melatonin will also cause low stomach acidity. And melatonin is related to cortisol. So proper testing, proper testing, proper testing. I have a whole video on my website, bionaturalhealthsolutions.com, for hormone imbalances. So remember, the gut is how we remove hormones, folks. Hormones are, I got hormone problems. It's not always how much you're making. It's number 1, how you're making them, at what time of the month you're making them, how they're attaching to the cells, and how you, once you use them, they got to go. They got to go. You make them, use them, go. Make them, use them, go. And many of you have hormone imbalances because you're not eliminating them, especially estrogen, which has the longest half-life. So this all needs to be looked at. Here's a test for cortisol. You can see the green shaded area is where you want to be. We make the patient spit at 4 different times because cortisol should be high in the morning and decrease throughout the day. Melatonin does the opposite, right? So we have them spit and measure cortisol through the saliva, which is most accurate, morning, midday, around late afternoon, and before you go to bed. So we measure this rhythm here. You can see how this person is really, really high in the morning and midday. So number 9 is nutritional deficiencies. Glutamine, most of you know, is extremely important for replacing the gut lining, which happens every 3 to 7 days. L-glutamine helps us to make new gut cells or enterocytes. Zinc is very important. Fiber, which is really technically a prebiotic, which is what our probiotics eat or ferment to use, and they make short-chain fatty acids, which are postbiotics, which are important for gut healing, preventing cancer, and modulating our immune system, and so much more that I can't get into. Glutathione is an immune modulator and powerful antioxidant. Iron, vitamin D, magnesium is really important for energy, and the gut needs a lot of energy. So we do extensive blood testing on all of our patients to figure them out. Number 10, neurological dysfunction. So the autonomic nervous system is the part of the brain, mainly in our brainstem, that controls bodily functions automatically. We don't consciously control digestion, right? Now, if I dissected out the brainstem and I dissected out my stomach and gut, you would see these strings attached. That's called the vagus nerve. cranial nerve number 10. It's what controls our gut. 20% of the fibers are going down from the brain, 80% from the gut up to the brain. We look at that nerve. I'm going to measure your palatal elevation, your gag reflexes, certain eye movements in the world of functional neurology. We're going to figure out, is your vagus nerve working? And there's certain exercises you can do to get it to work so you start digesting better. So the vagus nerve controls swallowing. So if you're having problems swallowing, that's a vagal problem usually. Stomach acidity, poor blood flow to the gut. If your blood flow doesn't go to the gut, you're never going to heal. Those cells replace themselves every 3 to 7 days. So they need blood flow. They need nutrients to be able to thrive. Liver, gallbladder, pancreatic function, spleen function, all controlled by this nerve. The gut's immune system, the ileocecal valve, the valve between the small intestine and the large intestine, needs to be shut unless you're eating, then it opens. What controls that is the vagus nerve. There's so much more bacteria in the large bowel than there is in the small bowel. Vagus nerve gets lazy, that valve stays open. You get reflux of bacteria from the large bowel into the small bowel. And it controls our blood pressure, circulation, heart rate, and rhythm too. So symptoms of poor vagal function: dry eyes, dry mouth, snoring, sleep apnea, right? Poor gag reflex. If you gag too easily or you don't gag enough, that's a poor vagus nerve. Problems with swallowing, bloating after you eat, acid reflux, constipation, IBS, high or low blood pressure, heart palpitations, and arrhythmias. So we give neurological exercises to the vagus nerve to all our patients. First, I do a neurological exam, checking that nerve when you come in. Have you been told that your lab tests are normal and you're like, I don't feel normal? Well, I want to teach you something. Lab ranges are based on sick people, right? So when you go to a lab and your doctor runs a test and they look at the results from the lab and they compare you to a range. Well, how is that range determined? They take the average low and the average high of whoever's been in that lab for the last year. Well, what kind of people go to labs, sick or healthy? It's mostly sick people. So you got to be sicker than the average sick person before your doctor says that you have a problem. We use functional ranges, which is determined by the Endocrine Society and American Academy of Chemists. So we don't wait till you're outside the actual range. We use tighter ranges, and that's what we compare you to. And we're able to identify underlying illness much easier that way. So the essential test for underlying digestive disorders is we got to do comprehensive blood work using functional ranges. Like, for example, the thyroid, we run 9 markers just on the thyroid. And the thyroid's a major player when it comes to digestive. Talk to a person with a thyroid issue. They're going to tell you they've probably got a digestive issue too. The DNA stool test, such a beautiful technology, became available to us, the PCR testing, about 4 years ago now. Leaky gut testing and how to correct it. Food sensitivity testing, we do a 96-panel IgA, IgG, not just IgG, which is what a lot of testing does out there. It's a terrible test. Salivary hormone and genetic testing to see if you have any genetic weaknesses that we have to circumvent. I'm going to show you a few testimonials, some actual patients that come in. Enjoy them. This could be you. And then we're going to get back and we're going to go over cost.
I had 7 years earlier, I had had a flare-up with that was diagnosed with Crohn's, and I had a fistula with that as well. So I was taking medication for that and to keep the fistula closed. Also having lots of problems with heartburn and digestive issues, particularly at nighttime, that would disrupt my sleep, and taking medicine for that. And I was at a point where I just didn't feel good. You know, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I had no energy, I had brain fog, and I felt like I couldn't lose weight and I would gain more weight, and it was cyclical, and I just felt worse and worse, and so I knew I had to do something. And so when I came here, I was looking for answers, doing something that was going to make me feel better and get my energy back. I was totally committed to it, and I did it, and I started feeling better almost immediately. And so within probably a month of being on the program, my GI doctor encouraged me to go off the Dexilant that was for the stomach issues. He said go off of it cold turkey. So went off of it cold turkey, and I was really nervous because historically if I would miss a pill, I would feel terrible. But I think I had been doing the program with the Reparavite and the supplements, that they were really helping me so that I never had problems when I went off that medication. And I didn't have any issues with it. And so, you know, just kind of continued with that program, and it made me feel great. And I've lost 50 pounds. I feel good. I have lots of energy.
That's what I hear, yes.
I feel wonderful, and I feel like this saved my life.
Early in 2016, I definitely had some issues going on with my stomach. And I went to the traditional doctors, and they kept telling me it's just constipation, and we're giving pills. And it would maybe solve the problem for one day, but it would come right back about 3 days later. And I really wanted to learn. I didn't want to just treat it. I wanted to learn why it was happening. And I heard about your program, and it sounded good to me. I mean, even from the start, we were about a week, 2 weeks in, instant difference. And that was even before we got the test results back.
Right.
As soon as I started the program, you know, I lost about 10, 15 pounds, so I knew that was just stuff hanging on my body. And
Right. Energy levels, how are they?
definitely higher. You know, it took a little bit longer for the sleep, but that came too.
Okay.
Definitely sleeping better.
Yeah.
The focus is great.
Brain function
Yep.
better. Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah. Well, good job. You
Yeah.
did great. Okay, we're here with Carol and Mike Wake. Guys, you found out about our program from a workshop, I believe, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, tell us about that. How'd you...
It was accidental. I was retired a year ago, and I just happened to see this on on Facebook, and it was exactly what I needed at the time.
What did you have, Carol?
I
when you
had
came?
ulcerative colitis, and I
Okay.
was diagnosed with that approximately 6 years ago, and taking all kinds of medication and shots, and it never seemed to help. So when I saw your video, I thought this was for me, and I don't regret it.
Then how are your symptoms today? I mean, what were your main symptoms when you came in?
Symptoms were constant diarrhea. In the morning was the worst. Anytime I ate, I had to run to the washroom. Now with the medication, with the supplements, and with the new diet plan, and knowing how to eat better, much better.
Right, and you worked with our nutritionist, Alexa.
Yes, yes.
Did you feel like you got a lot of good information from her?
Absolutely. She opened up my eyes to so many things.
Okay. And we're actually wrapping up today.
Yes.
And do you feel like you know how to maintain and manage the progress?
I do. It's been an eye-opener.
Great. And Mike, now we're not going to leave you out of it because we know you're not very soft-spoken either. You were having like a lot of fatigue issues.
Yes,
And
yes.
you were gaining weight.
And I wasn't going regular. It was inconsistent
Okay.
on my bowel and a lot of things. I couldn't sleep, and I'm sleeping a lot better now. And I'm even off any vitamins for that. I just feel so much more alive, and I came in weighing 229, and now I weigh 190.
And you look great.
I feel great, and I'm for 75 years old, almost.
Awesome. And you guys come from a little bit of a ways, right? From
Yes.
Westchester, about an hour away?
Yeah,
Worth
about an hour.
Worth the
depending-
trip?
Oh, definitely.
And how about you too, Mike? Now working with, we did all the labs and everything, and then you worked with Alexa, our nutritionist. Do you feel like you've gotten a lot of information that's going to help you the rest of your life?
Yes, because I found out a lot of what foods do to you and the reactions, and to avoid some foods. Sure, you cheat once in a while, but for the most part, exercise is going to help me also.
Right. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome, Doc.
Okay, we're here with Maria. Maria's finishing up our 6-month program. Maria, how'd you find our clinic?
Through Facebook.
Through Facebook. You came to one of our workshops, right? I think on
Yes.
thyroid. Okay, and now just tell everyone how you feel today compared to the day you first met me, as far as your health and your symptoms.
Well, the first day that I met you, I remember I slept all day. I had no energy.
Uh-huh.
Everything I ate didn't settle well in my stomach.
So you had some digestive issues, right?
There was a time I didn't even go to the bathroom for, over a week.
So constipation.
And just not have any energy or even the will to live. I just was just done with everything.
Okay, and you had tried several different things, the traditional...
Yeah, different diets I tried, going to specialists, I was on medicine for my thyroid, but that didn't seem to be helping very much.
Uh-huh. And now that you're, we did some testing on you, we found several different things. How are you feeling today compared to then?
Oh, just a million times better. I've lost 45 pounds according to you, but 50 according to me. And energy is so much better. I'm able to eat. I'm not everything that I want to eat, but that's okay because my health is more important than that. And
Do you feel like you've learned a lot too about your health and how to take care of it from our program?
100%. 100%. I've learned what you have to have every day, what you need to eat every day, what you should avoid, and how that plays a role in your health. And at first I didn't think that food was going to be something that would affect the way that you feel every day, but it does. And taking the right supplements, it has helped me tremendously.
Exactly. All right. Thanks, Maria. Okay.
Okay, my name is Jamie Katsoris. I'm 34 years old.
Jamie, how'd you find out about our office?
My sister actually saw an article a doctor had placed in the Chicago Sun-Times, and she called me up and said, we have to go and listen to him.
Was it, what workshop was it that you went to?
The thyroid.
Okay. And what symptoms did you have when you first came here?
Fatigue, restlessness, tingly fingers and toes, cold.
How was your sleep?
Sleep was uninterrupted. I actually wanted to sleep more.
Okay, so you're
Was
tired all the
chronically
time.
fatigued.
Okay. And how about your digestion and your bowel?
That's a little embarrassing. When I came to see Dr. Byer, I was actually using the bathroom 12 to 15 times a day. It interrupted my life.
Now, today's, are we on our last visit today? Or we're close to the end of your
Close to
care?
the end. I think maybe
Okay.
3 more visits.
How do you feel today? It's been about, what, 4 months?
Yeah.
How do you feel today compared to when you first came?
Like a different person. Honestly, 4 months ago I couldn't get out of bed. I was miserable. My family suffered. I feel like a new person. I lost 30 pounds. I recommend it highly. It changed my life.
That's great. Okay. Thanks, Jamie.
You're welcome.
So what's the next step? Okay, I'm giving you, here's a number right here, 708-614-1222. Folks, I know you're suffering. I can't help everybody, but I can help a lot of people. Call and schedule a free 30-minute, no obligation consultation. I'm an upfront, straightforward kind of guy, and I'll tell you, this is what I think you should do, or I don't think I can help you, right? And so call the number, make the appointment, and here's what I do. The first time we talk, my determination is what's going on, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and are you a good candidate for what I do? And for that, we need a history. They're going to email you, if it's a virtual consultation, they're going to email you a metabolic assessment form that you have to fill out before we talk, right? And I like the spouse and significant other to be on board with all this. So have them watch this video or my long video. The metabolic assessment form, if we meet in person, you can fill out in my clinic. So I'm going to, right at that visit number 1, I'll be able to tell you if I think I can help you or not. So why can't I help you? Well, number 1, I can't help all people, right? And number 2, I got to see if you're willing to make changes. Some people come in, they want to get better, but they don't want to do the work. That's not going to happen. So then I'm going to meet with you on another visit, which is part of the free consultation. I'm going to overview, hey, what testing needs to be done, and then how long do we need to work together? It's usually about 6 months. I usually do the consultations every 2 weeks, but you have free email access to me in between. We do the testing, we develop your list of what's wrong, and then we go about correcting it in the proper order. That's where I have over 30 years of experience of doing that. And then I'm going to review the financial obligation on visit number 2. I'm going to give you an idea right now of what it is. So my offer is, my first 2 visits normally cost $450. If someone comes in off the street and doesn't watch this stuff. Someone who watches this, already you're coming in pre-qualified. I don't have to explain all this to you. You can schedule the number that I gave you. You can call 24/7. Let them know that you watched this video, and you have an opportunity to meet with me up to 30 minutes, no obligation, 30-minute consultation. So there's 3 rules of acceptance of a case. Number 1, you got to be willing to make serious life changes, right? I mean, that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and getting the same results. But the problem is, folks, a lot of you don't know what to do. You're online, you're looking at things, and you're trying this, you're trying that. People hire me to do the testing to figure them out. You have to take accountability for your health. Don't blame anybody else. And then there's a cost. Now, here's the approximate cost. We use Care Credit as a financing option. Up to 18 months, interest-free, it's going to be approximately $375 a month. That's the cost of all my time, the testing, and everything that I do in my program. You're not under care 18 months, but you can finance the care $375 interest-free up to 18 months, approximately. If you got insurance that might cover a little bit of this, then it's going to be a little bit less. You can go up to 60 months with interest, and that's going to be about $170 a month. I go over all that when you come into the clinic. I give a $500 discount if you pay it up front with a check, credit card, or cash. We go over all that on visit number 2. So, folks, I hope you enjoy this. This information, again, you can watch the hour-long video on my website, bionaturalhealthsolutions.com right there. But call right now, this number, 708-614-1222. Schedule a consultation, free, no obligation, 30-minute consultation. And look, we got one trip around this thing we call life, right? I'm telling you, you don't want to, digestive problems only get worse and worse and worse with time. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to meet you soon. Have a great day. How long?